Oh God, when everything is spiraling out of control, when only 10 people have turned up to your key speech, when you decide to accidentally post pictures, look at this, of your husband having an argument with the nanny on your wedding day, then what more is there to do than yet another disastrous advertising post making zero sense, but showing that you are, these days, pretty damn crazy.
24 photographs, 1 Elton John, 0 family. That is what Meghan Markle chose to share for her 8th wedding anniversary, and the internet noticed immediately. Daily Mail's Alison Boshoff was sitting in Cannes on Tuesday afternoon when the carousel dropped. She watched it, then she started counting. So did Tom Sykes, the Daily Beast's veteran royal correspondent, who had just landed back from Geneva that same morning. 2 seasoned journalists, 1 Instagram post, and they both came to the same conclusion. 24 photographs, curated personally by Meghan, posted to her 4.5 million followers. Her own version of the day she married into the British royal family, and it is a version that tells a very specific story. Almost every single shot is solo. Several show her dancing alone in that Stella McCartney reception gown, arms raised, no one beside her. There is no Doria, no Charles.
The amount of photos that she put just made her really look like kind of an insane narcissist. There were a lot of just her. And that one photo that you were just talking about is such a bad mistake. Well, it's interesting because you would have thought that somebody who had been there on that day, Serena, Oprah, the Clooneys, Priyanka Chopra.
Yes, she's another one.
Even Elton John, who she actually put a picture of him up. The only celebrity that she put a picture of, because of course she wants to tie herself again to Diana. None of them said, "What a great day," or "Wow, what a magical wedding," or "I still think about it." You know, no one said anything. And it is just getting quite sad. And again, you kind of are like, oh girl, knock it off. Like, it's getting very cringy.
No member of the royal family anywhere in sight. Just Meghan, again and again, in her own carefully selected highlight reel. There is one recognizable face from the 2018 guest list. Elton John, 1 picture, tucked into the corner of 1 reception shot, and even that comes with an asterisk. Per Boshoff's reporting, Elton has stayed connected over the years, but as she stated on her show, it is a Harry relationship, not a Harry and Meghan relationship. That one face is not even really Meghan's to claim. This is the entire celebrity count of the carousel. 1 man, and he belongs to Harry. So this video walks through it exactly the way Boshoff did, block by block. Who made the cut? Who got left out entirely? And then, near the end, something Harry himself said 7 months ago on an American comedy podcast, because what he said about social media that October does not sit comfortably next to what his wife just posted this Tuesday. Now here is what Meghan did post. 24 images.
I think it's really interesting because she's showing all of the celebrity friends, right, who usually, and she proves it, post tributes all the time to other celebrities, right? Like they Oprah or Gayle King. Look at all of the people who they love celebrating, love talking about their big moments.
Dropped in the early hours of Tuesday morning Pacific time, most of them previously unseen. A corkboard-style collage opens the carousel, then individual photographs follow. Meghan in the Givenchy ceremony gown, standing alone in a hallway, looking down at the floor. Meghan in the backless Stella McCartney reception gown, dancing with arms above her head alone again. A kiss. Another kiss. At least 6 different solo shots across various corners of the day, various poses, various stages of getting ready. Harry does appear. He makes it into roughly a quarter of the frame count, but the framing itself says everything. This is her day, told her way, and almost everyone else has been quietly edited out. Now let us count what is missing, because according to Boshoff, that is the real story. Every wedding album is a curation. The photos you choose tell the world who you still claim. The ones you leave out tell a different story entirely. And this carousel left out a lot. Doria Ragland walked Meghan into St. George's Chapel on the 19th of May, 2018. She wore a duck egg blue Oscar de la Renta dress. She sat alone in the front pew on the bride's side, the only Markle family member in that building.
I know it's difficult to be shocked by how low Meghan will go, but I was still shocked by the merching of the wedding for a candle. Honestly, I was. Because, you know, the difference with this, Paula, is that at least with the children, I guess you can say, well, it's up to them now what they do. I mean, this was a wedding paid for by us, the British taxpayer, and paid for by the British royal family. And merching the wedding, to me, I always knew that'd go there eventually. I'm shocked that I've done it so early. It's almost like she was begging people to post about this, to talk about this, and the silence was utterly damning in my view.
She flew in from Los Angeles. Photographers caught her weeping through the ceremony, then laughing at the reception. She danced, and on the chapel steps, she held Meghan's hand. In the 24 photographs, Meghan personally curated and posted Tuesday for her 8th anniversary, Doria does not appear. Not in the corkboard collage, not in the candid getting ready shots, not anywhere. Boshoff said it carefully, the way she always does. So it is worth saying carefully here too. The photographs exist. We know they exist. Official wedding photographer Alexei Lubomirsky shot several formal portraits of Meghan with Doria. They were released publicly in 2018. Meghan has full access to that entire archive, every candid, every pose, every frame. She chose none of them. In the version of her wedding day, Meghan published to 4.5 million followers. Her own mother is nowhere to be seen. Boshoff did not have to spell out what that means. The audience does the spelling themselves. A mother photographed weeping with joy at her daughter's wedding should appear somewhere in that daughter's anniversary post.
Looking back at all the pictures that she posted, I think some of them we maybe have seen before, but some of them not quite so much. And there's one picture in particular that kind of got to me, and that was when they're like close to smooching and she's like grabbing his face and he looks drunk as a skunk, like with his mouth open. It's like super awkward. I was like, why are you sharing this picture?
8 years later, 24 photos deep Doria's absence is not a privacy call. Privacy decisions affect what other people post about you. This was Meghan's own carousel. Meghan made every single choice. This is the same woman whose Netflix special told us repeatedly how close she is to her mother. The same woman whose Sussex royal launch positioned Doria as the moral center of the entire family. The same woman who, in her own Vanity Fair cover story, called her mother her best friend, and on the day she chose to share her wedding album with the world, on the 8th anniversary of the moment Doria walked her down that aisle, Doria did not make the cut. A wedding anniversary post with no mother in it is exactly the kind of thing people notice. Here is where the carousel gets even more revealing, because it is not just about who was left out, it is about what was left out on purpose. King Charles III, then the Prince of Wales, walked Meghan down the second half of that aisle, a personal act of kindness after her own father pulled out days before the wedding. Royal historians called it one of the most unusual gestures of welcome the institution had extended to a new royal in decades. A man in his late 60s, the future King of England, stepping in for a stranger's daughter on her wedding day. The British press called it the moment she was finally accepted into the family. He is not in the carousel. Queen Elizabeth II attended.
It was really striking, Paula, that on this anniversary, which clearly none of us thought was significant, but Harry and Meghan did, there was not one tribute from anyone else. And so they're the ones invading their own privacy. And it links, Paula, with what you have been reporting to Alison Boshoff in the Daily Mail in recent weeks about how virtually every A-lister at the wedding in some way, Paula, has turned or at least chosen to freeze themselves out.
She approved the venue. She approved the carriage procession. She sat through the ceremony. And that very morning, she granted Harry the Sussex dukedom itself. She is not in the carousel either. Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, attended together. Their children, Prince George and Princess Charlotte, were in the wedding party as page and bridesmaid. None of it made the cut. Tom Sykes, the Daily Beast's royal correspondent with 15 years on the beat, put it bluntly in a piece published Wednesday. He wrote that the Sussexes have squandered every last drop of goodwill through precisely this kind of stunt, the performative solemnity, in his words, undercut entirely by reflexive vanity. And he is not wrong. What Meghan published on Tuesday is not a private wedding album lovingly shared with the world. It is a curated brand asset, and that brand has made a very deliberate decision to erase the British royal family from her own royal wedding anniversary post. That is not an oversight. That is a choice. A bride who edits her in-laws out of her own wedding memorial has decided what she wants people to remember, and she has decided what she wants to forget. So who did make the carousel? One face, Elton John, and even that, per Boshoff's reporting, is not really Meghan's relationship to claim it is Harry's. Now, here is where the story gets almost comical. George and Amal Clooney attended that 2018 wedding. Per Boshoff's reporting, they reportedly told other guests,
"She has censored the royal family from it. It's as if the royal family weren't there."
They had never actually met the bride or groom before that day. They were there to lend celebrity to the occasion, nothing more. Last week, they turned up at King Charles's charity event, not Meghan's anniversary post. Their loyalty was always to the institution, never to the brand. Oprah came to the wedding too. 3 years later, she got the interview she wanted. Transaction completed, no loyalty, just business. Oprah has been quiet on the Sussexes ever since. David and Victoria Beckham attended that 2018 wedding too, and per Boshoff's reporting, they will not go anywhere near the Sussexes now. They have been photographed repeatedly with William and Catherine instead.
Things haven't been good for some time between Doria and Meghan Markle, have they? It's been very obvious in Doria's couple of brief appearances on Meghan's media projects that she's just not interested. She doesn't like being dragged into the spotlight and used in the same way.
Serena Williams was reportedly the last real holdout, Meghan's actual friend, the one who genuinely stuck around. And even Serena, per the most recent reporting, has cooled off. That is the social ledger of someone whose anniversary carousel contains one Elton John and a lot of solo shots. And before anyone says celebrities do not post tributes to someone else's anniversary, that is not the point. The Clooneys made it to King Charles's party just last week. They are out there. They are taking photographs with people. They are simply choosing different people. Boshoff's reporting is not about who failed to post a tribute. It is about who Meghan herself chose to include and exclude from her own version of that day. And that ledger reads like a brand that burned through its connections, a wedding album running on grievance instead of genuine memory. 8 years in, and the evidence is right there in the frame count. Now there is one more piece of this story that needs attention. It does not come from this week. It comes from October 2025, 7 months ago, when Prince Harry sat down with American comedian Hassan Minhaj on his podcast. They covered a lot of ground: American citizenship, his accent.
I looked at the pictures of Harry, right, of her dancing with Harry, her suction kissing him, and I tell you what, he just looked like a little rag doll in her arms. You know, she clearly was director of operations on that day, and you could almost see from those pictures this poor innocent ginger guy, a lamb to the slaughter, being sucked into Meghan's master plan.
The strangeness of raising children in California. Then Minhaj asked what they planned to do when their kids eventually asked for mobile phones. Harry did not hesitate. He was cautious, hesitant, deeply uncomfortable with the idea of his children anywhere near social media. On that same podcast, Harry called the people behind these platforms evil, wicked people who farm our children's mindset and market it for themselves. That clip made modest waves inside royal watching circles for about 48 hours, then settled into the archive the way most podcast moments do. It is back this week because of what his wife just posted. This Tuesday, the 19th of May, Meghan dropped a carousel of 24 wedding photographs to 4.5 million followers. Inside that post a clip of their children singing happy anniversary to their mother, their faces, their voices, posted publicly. She also showed off the bronze penguin Harry picked out as her 8th anniversary gift, bronze being, as the post helpfully reminded everyone, the traditional material for the 8th anniversary year, symbolizing lifelong partnership.
The best man, William, has become the invisible man. He's not in any of Meghan's pictures, nor is Catherine, the Princess of Wales, nor is the late Queen Elizabeth or the late Prince Philip, Anne, Edward, you name it, they're not there, nor are any of the galaxy of stars who went there as well, who attended that wedding. So she's censored everybody out of these great raft of pictures, and it's just her, mainly her, and a little bit of Harry.
The man who called social media platforms evil for exploiting his children, are now content in his wife's anniversary post. The version of their marriage this carousel shows you is the one they want you to see. The version Harry described on that podcast, cautious, deeply uncomfortable with social media, is the exact opposite of how his wife operates professionally. Both versions cannot be true at the same time. And in just 15 days, on the 6th of June, there is going to be yet another version of this marriage on display. Peter Phillips, Princess Anne's son and the late Queen's eldest grandson, will marry Harriet Spurling at All Saints Church in Kemble. King Charles is invited. Queen Camilla is invited. William and Catherine are invited. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie are both making their return to active royal life through this wedding, quietly photographed at engagements with the King's office over the last 2 weeks. The Sussexes are not on the guest list. Multiple outlets are reporting it. Peter Phillips's team has not denied it. And that silence? That silence is its own kind of answer. Think about what that means for a second. This is not some distant cousin's backyard gathering. This is a senior royal wedding, a Phillips wedding, a direct line to the late Queen herself.
I do think what was so interesting, though, about the whole wedding leak is that she's the only one now invading her own privacy, Paula. She is the only one. No other friends or family members had any desire to go back there on the wedding.
The kind of event where the guest list is not just a formality, it is a statement. Every name on it means something. Every name left off, it means something too. And the Sussexes are left off it. Peter Phillips has never been one for drama. He has largely stayed out of the public wars that have defined the Sussex years. He is not a man who makes loud statements, which is exactly why this one lands so hard. You do not have to shout to make a point. Sometimes you just quietly do not send the invitation and let the world do the math. The family has been doing its own counting. And the numbers are not adding up in Harry and Meghan's favor. Not this week, not with this carousel, not with this pattern that keeps repeating itself no matter how many bronze penguins or anniversary posts get published. Because here is what keeps getting overlooked in the conversation about the carousel. It is not just one post. It is not just one anniversary. It is a pattern that has been building for years, and the 24 photographs published this Tuesday are simply the latest and clearest version of it. Every major moment in the Sussex public story follows the same blueprint. A carefully curated image goes out. The image tells one story.
Most of their friends, like Oprah, she has not been seen with Meghan Markle in years, right? Obviously, she did the famous sit-down interview. I think a lot of their A-list friends have ditched them because they know there's no substance there. I think Meghan Markle played in Oprah's face. I think she sold her a bunch of lies, in my opinion. She told her mistruths. She told her half-truths to try and build a victim narrative. Who wants to hear some spoiled brat duchess complain about her time in the royal family? I'm so sorry you had to suffer and be in the royal family, sweetheart. I'm so sorry you got to live the fantasy millions of girls wish for every single day. I'm sorry you had to go to ribbon cuttings. I'm sorry you had to do a little cookbook. I'm sorry you had to wear fancy outfits and show up at charity events and go on trips that were paid for. So I'm so sorry to you.
The gaps in the image tell another. And then, the people who were supposed to be in the frame, the ones who were physically present, who showed up, who played a role, find out they have been edited out. Not with any dramatic announcement, not with any confrontation, just quietly, digitally, gone. Doria was there on that aisle. She held Meghan's hand on those chapel steps. She wept through that ceremony. And 8 years later, when Meghan sat down to build her version of that day for 4.5 million followers, Doria did not make a single frame. That is not a small thing. That is a very specific kind of erasure, and it happens to be the same kind of erasure the British royal family has been experiencing through the Sussex public narrative for years. King Charles walked her down that aisle. The late Queen gave Harry his dukedom that morning. William and Catherine sat in that chapel. Their children stood in that wedding party. And none of them appear in the carousel Meghan chose to publish as her memorial of that day. The institution that gave her the platform, the title, the global audience she still trades on, scrubbed clean from her own wedding anniversary post. What makes this week different is that the contrast has never been sharper. Because at the exact same time Meghan was posting her solo carousel in California, the British royal family was quietly going about the business of being a family.
What are you going to do when your kids ask for a cell phone? Are you going to give them a phone? I mean, have you talked to Meghan about this? Because I've talked to my wife about this.
We talk about it a lot. And I think that, but because of what we know now, we will be way more cautious and hesitant of allowing our kids to have access to social media. But the problem is so many parents don't have that awareness, because in no logical, fair, ethical, moral world should a parent have to consider that this app that sits on the phone, which, by the way, having a phone for your kid is a really important thing.
Beatrice and Eugenie photographed at engagements, Charles hosting charity events with guests who actually show up, a Philip's wedding being planned with a guest list that reflects where loyalties actually sit. Two very different pictures of what 2025 looks like for the people who were all in that chapel together in 2018. And then there is Harry. That is the piece of this that nobody seems to want to sit with long enough, because Harry is not a passive figure in this story. He is not just the man standing in roughly a quarter of the carousel frames. He is the man who 7 months ago, on a public podcast, described social media platforms as run by evil, wicked people who farm our children's mindset and market it for themselves. His words, his interview, his October. And this Tuesday, his wife posted their children's faces and voices to 4.5 million followers as part of an anniversary content drop. The children Harry said he wanted to protect from exactly this kind of exposure turned into content, posted publicly, packaged alongside the bronze penguin and the Stella McCartney gown and the solo dancing shots.
Happy anniversary to
And Papa! I love you.
Blow them! No. Blow them!
Yay!
Yeah!
Oh my gosh! This is when Mama and Papa, when we got engaged, we had a party with all of our friends, and we said everyone we were an animal onesie, and we were penguins. We were penguins because we're together for life.
Now here is the question nobody in the royal commentary space seems willing to ask directly. Does Harry know? Does he approve? Is he sitting in Montecito watching his wife build her brand on the back of the values he publicly stated on that podcast and saying nothing? Or is there a conversation happening behind those Montecito walls that the carousel is not showing us? Because one of those two options is deeply uncomfortable, and the other one is arguably worse. The carousel shows a partnership, bronze for lifelong commitment, children singing, a gift carefully chosen to match the traditional anniversary material. Everything wrapped in the language of a solid, unified marriage. But the podcast from October shows a man who expressed serious reservations about the very platform his wife just used to broadcast their private anniversary to millions of strangers. Those two things are not compatible. And nobody in that household has explained the gap.
This is like the ultimate snub to Harry and Meghan. This is a family wedding. This is something that in the past there would have been an expectation that someone so high up the line of succession would have been. And the fact that the royals are briefing directly to the son that the king wanted Beatrice and Eugenie to be there and wanted them to remain part of the family is obviously like a dagger in the heart to Harry and Meghan, who are desperately trying to get back into the fold.
That gap is what the 6th of June is going to make even more visible. Because while the Sussexes are absent from Kemble, the people who will be standing inside All Saints Church are going to represent something the carousel cannot manufacture: actual presence, actual relationships. People who showed up not for content, not for brand, not for followers, but because they were invited, because they belong there, because the family still counts them in. Peter Phillips is not posting a carousel. He is not dropping a curated set of 24 images for public consumption. He is getting married in a church in the Cotswolds, surrounded by the people who are actually in his life. And the contrast between that and what happened on Tuesday in Montecito could not be more stark. Royal watchers have spent years debating whether the Sussex exit was a strategic move or an emotional one, whether the Oprah interview was calculated or cathartic, whether the Netflix deal was about financial freedom or something more defensive, whether the memoir was necessary or simply destructive. Those debates have never fully resolved, but this week something shifted. The carousel made something visible that all the debate in the world could not quite pin down before. It is not that Meghan left people out, it is the specific people she left out. Her mother, the king who stepped in for her father, the queen who gave her husband his title.
You are going to make a candle that smells like your children. First of all, hello, pedo bait. Second of all, they merged the queen when she came out with Princess Lilibet candle. Then, of course, due to the backlash, she took it back. And now, of course, the press release says, the candle is in honor of our founder's daughter, Lilibet. Whereas we all have the original press release. So she merged the queen, she merged her kids, and now she's merging her wedding. Of course she is. It's just natural.
The family whose name she still carries in her official styling, and in their place one borrowed celebrity, a lot of solo frames, and children's voices posted to a platform their father publicly condemned. Tom Sykes framed it as squandered goodwill. Boshoff framed it as a curation that tells its own story. Both of them are right, but there is something underneath both of those framings that is worth naming plainly. This is what the end of a social ledger looks like. Not a dramatic collapse, not a public falling out, just a carousel with 24 photographs, and almost nobody in them who was actually there. 8 years ago, Meghan Markle walked into St. George's Chapel on the arm of a future king, in a dress designed by the creative director of one of the world's most storied fashion houses, watched by 600 guests, including heads of state, celebrities, and the entire senior British royal family. The world stopped to watch. Billions of people tuned in. It was, by any measure, one of the most watched weddings in modern history. 8 years later, the anniversary post has one Elton John, several solo dancing shots, and a bronze penguin. The 600 guests have been reduced to a single frame in a corner of a reception photograph. The family that welcomed her has been removed entirely from her own memory of the day, and the mother who wept through the ceremony has been left out of the album completely. That is the arc. That is what 8 years looks like from the inside of this particular carousel. And the 6th of June is going to add one more data point to that arc. A royal wedding in Kemble, with the family gathered, without the Sussexes in the room. So drop your verdict in the comments right now. Should Meghan have included her mother in those 24 photographs? Was Doria's absence a privacy decision or something else entirely? And what do you think Harry actually thinks about all of this? Because that podcast clip is not going away, and neither is the carousel. Those two things are going to sit next to each other for a long time. We will be back later this week with Tom Sykes' full breakdown and what he says it reveals about where Project Sussex actually stands right now. And by the 6th of June, we will be in Kemble bringing you everything as it happens. If this video gave you something to think about, hit that like button. It genuinely helps get this content in front of more people who are following this story closely. Share it with someone who has been watching the Sussex situation unfold, because this conversation is bigger than one carousel. Subscribe if you are not already here, because this story is nowhere near finished and you do not want to miss what comes next. See you in the next one.